program, I'd like to just offer a prayer for peace. Peace for everyone in our world, peace for our hearts, peace in our thoughts, and peace in our minds. And so with that prayer for peace, let's turn to page 178. Grant abundant peace to Israel, your people, and all the people in our world forever. For you are the sovereign God of all peace in our world. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Ki Ato Melech Adon Lechol HaShalom. Ki Ato Melech Adon Lechol HaShalom. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Tasim Leolam. Tasim Leolam. ברוך אתה אדוני המברך את עמו ישראל וכל יושבי תבל בשלום. On this Shabbat, our thoughts now turn to those who are ill, those in our community and beyond who are in need of refuah shlema, complete and wholesome healing. This week we think of Amelia Parsons, Anita Rosenzweig, Bert Bronk, Elise Dirlam Cheng, Fred Belkin, Danielle Hurst, Harvey Malin, Heather Mullis, Joyce Levy-Levine, Justin Garcia, Nancy Lever, Natalie Litovsky, Oren Zvik, Rabbi Tziona Zalazo, Robin Way, Shari Morris, Steve Knoll, and Stu Needle. If you'd like to add a name to our healing list, I will invite you to do so now. Please say that name. As my eyes meet yours, please raise your hand if you'd like to mention a name. And of course, let us also hold in our hearts and prayers all those who were wounded in more ways than one in wars and acts of violence in Israel, in Gaza, all the innocents, and every other part of our world. And let us all continue with Mishaberach. You will find the lyrics, these timeless lyrics on page 371 in your Siddur. Timeless lyrics and timeless melody by Debbie Friedman. Shebehirach avoteinu mekor habracha leimoteinu. May the source of strength who blessed the ones before us help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, שבהירחים מקור הברכה לאבותינו. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shelema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say Amen. It is now my true honor to invite up to the Bima our principal, Sarah O'Donnell, to present to our graduating students, Molly Kravitz-Yoffe and Naomi Drabinski, a few words of acknowledgement, and of course, we will congratulate you all as a congregation as well.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
It has been an honor getting to know Molly and Naomi over the last 3 years. They have grown up at Temple Adash Shalom, and while I didn't see them as children, I have loved working with them as young adults. Both girls have been wonderful role models for our students, whether it's leading the hand motions for Modeh Ani, volunteering at the Purim Carnival, or tutoring students. They will step in whenever needed. I want to thank Wendy and Clara for sending me some backstory information on the girls' history with the synagogue, filling in some gaps from before I came to TAS. First, I'll speak a little bit about Naomi. Judaism has always played a major role in Naomi's upbringing. She attended our religious school from pre-K through 10th grade, celebrating her confirmation 2 years ago. Since meeting Naomi, I have come to find that everything she does is extremely thought out and purposeful. It came as no surprise to me that her bat mitzvah project was no different. For this endeavor, she and a friend learned how to use a hot press machine to put fun Hebrew sayings on t-shirts. They sent the t-shirts along with fleece blankets they made to Ethiopian Jews who were hidden, impoverished, and persecuted. Naomi has been a madricha in our religious school for 2 years. She worked with Brian Kolstad's 6th grade class last year and is currently supporting a Shira Kwabili with her 4th and 5th graders. Naomi has co-taught, planned, and taught her own lessons. For years, Naomi has volunteered for honors at services in our synagogue, and she is currently the teen tutor for the Jocelyn B'nai Mitzvah. At home, Naomi helps her mom to make dinner for both Passover Seder and Rosh Hashanah, as well as challah for Shabbat. This summer, Naomi will be working as a counselor at Camp Louise, an all-girls Jewish overnight camp that she attended for 8 years as a camper. Come the fall, Naomi is dual enrolled in Syracuse University's School of Education and the Maxwell School of Citizenship and Public Affairs. Naomi, I can't wait to hear about all your adventures. Molly. Like Naomi, Molly has also grown up at Temple Adash Shalom. She attended preschool at the Early Learning Center for 2 years, as well as religious school from her 1st through 10th grade year. Molly was confirmed in 2022 and has been a madricha and Kahila magnet during both her junior and senior years. Molly is fantastic with our students. She worked with Ashira Kwabili's 3rd and 4th grade class last year, and she is currently working in Holly Taylor's 1st grade class this year. Holly has pulled me aside several times this year to share how impressed she is with Molly's teaching abilities and connections with the children. She will often offer to help me in her off time and is currently tutoring a new student to learn his Hebrew letters so that he can catch up with the rest of his classmates. Molly is Level 1 certified by U.S. Sailing and will be teaching it this summer at the Havre de Grace Youth Sailing Program. This fall, Molly will be attending Washington College, a liberal arts college in Chestertown, Maryland, where she will be part of the Presidential Fellows Program and a member of the varsity swim team. Girls, I will miss seeing both of you so much on Sunday mornings, and I hope that you will continue to visit us during your holiday breaks. Thank you so much for your dedication to this synagogue. On behalf of Kehila Magnet, I would like to say how proud I am of you.
So, I'm the one that would call you up almost every Sunday, the two of you, to come and help me, because after more than 2 years now, I still can't remember the entire thing. And so the two of you have been incredibly gracious, as Principal Sarah just mentioned, to come and help. And I just wanted to say that last year, I don't think I've ever said that to both of you, how incredibly grateful I was that you stood up, both of you, and said, we will do whatever is needed, whatever you need, Rabbi, to honor our one student who became confirmand last year. Without hesitation, both of you said, we will help, we will support. And with that, I will just say that I will miss you. I will miss seeing you both. I want you to know that once you're rabbi, also always your rabbi. I know that the path is open to the two of you, and you will figure out along the way how to continue on this exciting, maybe a little scary college path that you're going to work towards and on and through. And so on behalf of Temple Adis Shalom, on behalf of Principal Sarah, on behalf of President Mark, Rabbi Discretionary Fund is going to give you each a gift, and I hope that you're going to put it to good use. In fact, I know that you'll put it to good use, simply because the two of you are stellar human beings. And with that, Mazal Tov to you, Molly. And Mazal Tov to you, Naomi. So, now we're going to move really fast to the next part of our evening service, and that is reading a very small excerpt from the Torah. Here at Temple Adis Shalom, we try to read Torah on Fridays when there is no bar mitzvahs on Saturdays, because of this precious gift that was given to us from one generation to the next. And therefore, we try to honor that and read and learn each and every time that it is possible for us. And so this week is Parshat Acharei. I'll just give you a little excerpt. It is Acharei from the book of Leviticus, chapters 16 through 18. It begins with the verse, and God spoke to Moses after the death of Aaron's two sons, Acharei Mot B'nei Aharon. This portion, which I'm about to read a few verses from, and you can find it in your Chumash. Most rows have a Chumash, a Torah book. You can find it if you go to the book of Leviticus, chapter 16, and I'm going to read through verses 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. This portion contains many, many, many long details about the duties that the head Kohen, or HaKohen HaGadol in Hebrew, must perform on Yom Kippur, including fasting and atonement. We also learn about cautions that are set for the Israelites, like the offering of sacrifices outside the sanctuary and the consumption of raw blood, or in our culture today, the eating of not fully cooked meat. And it goes on, as is the custom in the book of Leviticus. And so with that, I'd like to invite the parents of Naomi and Molly. I'd like to invite up Joel and Patrick, and also Wendy and Clara, to come up here. And the way we're going to chant Torah today is we're simply going to hold it up right here. And Mark, if you can help me, if you don't mind, that will be really wonderful. I already set the Torah to where I need it to be. I'm going to read from here to here. And if I can have parents holding the Torah, are you able to help me out? And you know how I like it. So right here, yes. And you're going to hold it up. No, we're going to hold it up like we did on, okay. All right, so, all right, here we go. So hold it up like this. There you go. And I'm going to go over here. And I'm going to invite Molly and Naomi to read the blessing before, and then they'll deliver the blessing for after. There you go. Excellent. Yes, I am reading right to left. Get closer to me a little bit just to make sure that everybody can see it. Get closer a little bit. All right, ready? Baruch Adonai Hamvorach Leolam Va'ed. Don't fall. Amen. וידבר אדוני אל משה אחרי מות שני בני אהרון בקרבתם לפני אדוני וימותו ויאמר אדוני אל משה דבר אל אהרון אחיך ואל יבוא בכל עת אל הקודש מבית לפרוכת על פני הכפורת אשר על הארון ולא ימות כי בענן אראה על הכפורת בזאת יבוא אהרון אל הקודש בפר בן בקר לחטאת ואי לעולה כתונת בד קודש ילבשו במכנסי בד יהיו על בשרו ובאבנת בד יחגור ובמצנפת בד יצנוף בגדי קודש הם ורחץ במים את בשרו ולבשם ומאת עדת ישראל בני ישראל ייקח שני שעירי עזים לחטאת ואי לאחד לעולם.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם אשר נתן לנו תורת אמת בחיי עולם נטע בתוכנו ברוך אתה אדוני נותן התורה.
Amen. Yasher koach. Yasher koach. All right.
Is anyone set up for Delaware? Or should I just?
No, we're not doing Lila. We will just return the Torah to the ark as soon as it's ready. Here. All right. Do you want to deliver your speeches?
Hi everybody. I'd like to say a few words. So, as Sarah said, I've been going to temple with my family for as long as I can remember. One of my earliest memories here is being in Randy Chansey's pre-KK class with my sister, because it was all combined. I don't think I remember learning anything there. We just played a bunch, which was really fun. Well, I know my alphabet, so it's fine. All right, so throughout my 12 years at religious school, there is one person who's always been right next to me, and that is Miss Molly Kravitz-Yaffe. Round of applause for Molly, everybody. Yay. All right. My first and biggest thank you goes to her. We've been through everything together from consecration in like second grade, bat mitzvah prep, confirmation, and now being Madrikim together. Sorry. I'm very grateful to all my teachers and really anyone who's volunteered their time to the religious school to help me form a deeper connection to my religion. That includes like all my teachers, all my tutors. Hi, Linda Needle. You tutored my bat mitzvah. That was actually my bat mitzvah portion. A little fun fact, full circle moments. Sorry, this is bad. Also, you've made my Sundays very fun. You know, even if it's full of learning, I like learning. I want to be a teacher. Next, I want to thank my parents for driving me every Sunday and bring me to services most Fridays. Even though I didn't express it in the moment, I was probably a pain about it. I did always like going, and I like going now. So, and I don't get to go as often now, but I do enjoy when I can. It's kind of crazy that in a few months I'll be going off to college in New York, so that's a long ways away. The synagogue has given me so much. Just to list a few, one of my best friends, as in Molly, the opportunity to go to Camp Louise through all the like sisterhood funds and rabbi funds. It's my favorite place, so I really appreciate that. And the opportunity to help out in classrooms and discover my passion for teaching. I love my kids. I love doing what I do here, and I wouldn't get that opportunity if I hadn't been in religious school for so long. And last but certainly not least, I'd like to thank Rabbi Meeka and Rabbi Gila, who's not here, but was here for a long time while I was in religious school. You've donated so much of your time to helping me and Molly, and I truly appreciate every bit of it. So, and also thank you to everyone that's here supporting us. Really appreciate it. I'm sure you've all helped me at one point or another, because it's been a long time. So, thank you all so much.
I'll bet anything Molly's going to say. Dito!
No, so I'm going to start off by saying my speech is not nearly as sentimental as Naomi's. Hers was probably a little nicer than mine. But for those who don't know me, my name is Molly. I've been attending since first grade, so that's, I think, 12 years. While it's always been hard waking up early on Sunday mornings, I've learned so much during my 12 years here. There are so many people here who have made my time memorable, so I'm going to spend the next minute thanking them. So first I'm going to thank all of my past teachers who helped me learn and practice Hebrew. Linda Needle, who was also my bat mitzvah tutor. Rabbi Meeka, who truly made me feel as though my values were heard. Sarah O'Donnell, who did support me despite however many times my mom texted her and was like, Molly's not going to be here this many weeks because she has a swim meet. My old classmates who I haven't talked to in ages, but for the many laughs we shared. To my parents who are driving me every week, who probably like Naomi was a pain in the butt about it. My brother Connor for sitting with me for hours while I practiced my Torah portion for my bat mitzvah. And lastly, I want to thank Naomi, before that, I want to thank Holly Taylor, who I loved working with this past year, who is probably going to get mad at me on Sunday for calling her out. And lastly, I want to thank Naomi. I spent almost 300 Sundays. I did the calculations. Sunday school days with her, and surprisingly only hung out with her once outside of Sunday school. And I'm so glad to call her one of my best friends, and I'm going to miss her so much next year. Thank you for the memories, Naomi Linderbinsky.
No problem, Molly.
To both of you as we return back to the ark. Let us all rise. יהללו את שם אדוני כי נשגב שמו לבדו. הודו על ארץ ושמיים וירם כרם לעמו תהילה לכל חסידיו לבני ישראל עם קרובו. הללויה, הללויה. Shabbat Shalom. You can go back to your seats now. You can go and sit with your parents. Masal Tov. Masal Tov. Please be seated. It is my true honor to invite Mark Wolko, our president, who's going to introduce a very special guest speaker who is here among us, a fellow Israelian. All right.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
And now it is my pleasure to do a brief introduction for our guest speaker, Ido Reichman-Eisikovits, who works as the Vice President of Fundraising for Green Horizens, one of Jewish National Fund USA's many, many affiliates. It is JNF's mission to build a strong, prosperous, sustainable future for the land and people of Israel. In this context, Green Horizens is building the future leaders of tomorrow through outdoor educational activities for Israeli youth, grades 5 through 12. Ido specifically works to develop the leadership skills of thousands of Israeli youths, educating them about their country's rich history and Zionist values. A proud major in the IDF reserves and most recently in Gaza, Ido formerly served as an IDF-appointed advisor to Peru's military as vice chairman of the National Union of Israeli Students and is the CEO of advertising agency Alhan Holdings. Welcome, Ido. Please save your questions for the end, and then when he's done, I'll also introduce you to the other mystery guest here.
I wanted to speak without a mic because my mother was always complaining that I have an inside amplifier. But I guess people on YouTube or Zoom or whatever we are streaming need it. And I have to say that it's a little bit hard of an act to follow Naomi here after the speech and Marley. But I will try to do my best. I thought a lot what I want to speak. I think about because of the whole situation in the last half a year. I want to talk a little bit about Zionism because there is this word that people tend to use, and in the last few years, every part of Jews, Israelis, non-Israeli are taking Zionism and taking him to all sides and interpretation. And I want to share with you the best lesson that I was taught. What is Zionism, and hopefully to give some perspective about what this word needs to mean to every one of us. So, as you might not notice from my accent, I was born and raised in Israel. And I am the first of my family that was born in Israel. My parents ran away from communist Romania a year before I was born, and they came literally without nothing. Only my older brother, who was 1.5 years old, and the clothes that they were wearing. And when they came to Israel, my father was 26 years old, and he decided to join the IDF. So I grew up as with a father that was an officer in the IDF and was not at home. He was coming every weekend, every 2 weeks. And I remember the first time I heard the name, the word Zionism. It was when I was in the 4th grade, and they taught us in school about that word. And I was waiting until the weekend to ask my father, is Zionism is being an officer, so I want to be the same. And my father is big, you see, like me. And I waited, and Friday he came home with his uniform and his backpack, and he entered, and I ran into him and said, Abba, what is Zionism? Is Zionism being an officer in the IDF? Where do I sign? And he looked at me down, smiled, took his backpack, put out a compass, and took me to the living room and told me, Ido, you know what I'm holding? Told him, a compass? Says, you know what the compass does? Told him, yeah, he chose the north, but how it's connected to my questions? And he told me, Zionism is exactly the same as a compass. And I looked bizarre at him, and he told me, Ido, if I will take this compass and we will fly together now to Romania where your grandparents are living, what the compass will show? Told him, I guess the north. Never been to Romania. If I will take you and me and the campus all across the ocean to New York. What it will show there? I said, I guess the north, but get to the point. He says, Zionism is the same way. When your grandparents were young teenagers, for them Zionism was to survive the Holocaust. So there will be Jewish people in the world. When I and your mother grew up, for us, being Zionist, was to be Jew in a country that doesn't allow people to be Jew. When I grew up, and me and your mother had the opportunity, for us being then a Zionist, is to come to Israel, to the state of Israel. Now for me, to be a Zionist is to serve in the IDF. When you will grow up, you will need to find the way to be Zionist. It can be your own path. And for many years, I stuck with that. And as soon as I reached the 18 years old, of course, I went to the IDF, went to the best unit I could, became an officer. And for many, many years, I thought that for me, that's being a Zionist. Giving everything to the state of Israel, protecting the land of Israel, protecting the people in Israel. But 11 years ago, I joined an organization called Green Horizens, or as we call it in Israel, Chugei Sayarut. And for the people that know Hebrew, there is no connection between Chugei Sayarut and the translation Green Horizens. But it's a long story. Don't not share now. And I found my place of being Zionist. And until, I think half a year ago, I thought that the most Zionist thing that I did was 2 years ago. I led a delegation from Green Horizons, with Green Horizons alumni. As Mark mentioned, we are educating kids in Israel. But I took a delegation of 12 alumni and flew to Ukraine to work with refugees on the border between Ukraine and Poland. And I thought that this is the most important thing I can do, representing Jewish values, helping people that probably will never see me. Some of them were surprised that I'm Israeli because they hear this awful thing about Israel, and suddenly the first person that ever smiled at them and asked them if they need anything, or how can I help your child, and do you need water or clothes or food, was a guy with an Israeli flag on his shoulder. And I was very proud in it. But half a year ago, on October 7, every Israeli and every Jew life turned upside down. Because we always thought we are strong and we can protect everyone. But on October 7, an entire region in Israel was conquered. For 48 hours, that entire region, have many friends living there. And as an organization, we had many participants and alumni that are living there. Was held and conquered by Hamas. And when it happened, immediately my reaction as someone who is a fighter all his life in the army says, I want to go and fight, rescue them. And after 3 weeks afterwards, I found myself on October 28th on uniform with a helmet and a vest and a rifle, leading my soldiers into Bet Hanun in the first entry to Gaza. But why am I telling you that? Because the most Zionist thing that I ever did in my life was on October 12th, when I got a phone call from a very good friend of mine who lived in Ein Absor, which is one of the moshavim in the Eshkol region, one of the moshavim that were attacked. Thank God that moshav, the terrorists didn't manage to penetrate. Part of it was because most of the terrorists got to a fight with the people of En Absor, and suddenly on the radio they heard that there is a festival around 20 minutes walk from there, that it's very easy to butcher people. And there are 3,000 people to butcher, so it's much more easier to go there and kill Jews rather than fighting some Jews to enter En Absor. So En Absor survived. But Michal gave me a call and says, Ido, we have a huge problem. We were evacuated. We and all of our community, including around 26,000 kids and youth. Those kids are traumatized. Their parents are traumatized. Our education people are traumatized, are not existing. We are now living in hotels in Eilat, and in the Dead Sea, in Ramat Negev, but we don't have any people to manage and work our education with the kids, and we need those people. Can you send few people from your organization to help us? I met some, first of all I said, Michal, I'm on it. After 2 hours, after a few phone calls, I managed to get 5 of our alumni girls that were students, but they understood that probably they will not go back to school. And they decided to take everything, leave their house, and they moved to Eilat, to live in Eilat. And then those girls told me after a few days, it was 6 days before I was going to the army, told me, Ido, there are so many kids here. Most of them are dead people walking. They are hollow people. They are traumatized. They are not willing to leave their small room in the hotel. And there are many other organizations that are coming here, doing fun activities, singers, celebrities, that are coming and then doing fun activities for the kids. But they are coming for an hour, 2 hours, but then they are leaving. They're staying maybe a day, and then they're going back to their house. That's not what the kids need here. We need people to be here and be role models for those kids, because the parents are not role models anymore. Many of you are parents. I'm a parent. When you grow up a child, you have a distance between them, if you want it or not. You tell him when he needs to wake up, when he needs to eat, when he goes to school, when he comes on Sunday school. You tell them what to do. Now imagine a kid that grew up in a kibbutz down south in a shkol. That most of the time, a girl, like Naomi and Molly, they like to sit in the room, sometimes want to talk with their parents, most of the time like to watch on their phone. I'm a parent of 3 girls, so I know. Sometimes they will talk, but they want to do their own thing. They want to meet their friends. They have their own room. Imagine in few hours, they need to sleep, go to sleep, wake up in the same room, 20 square meter, with their parents. And their parents are traumatized because they were in a death situation. They are not role models anymore. But those kids need that. So we as an organization, and that's my proud Zionist moment, took responsibility and says, we will send those role models for them. And we recruited and deployed 25 alumni, ages between 22 to 27, that moved their life for half a year, stopped everything in their life, and moved to the Dead Sea, to Eilat, to Ramat Negev, to the Arava, and now in Tiberias for the evacuees from the north. And stop everything just to be there for those kids. And form an organization that in the last 50 years has been educating kids through the outdoors to become leaders in Israel, have over 80,000 alumni. But every year we had around 5,200 kids this year until October 7. In the last half a year, we added 13,000 kids. That all they need is a role model to save their lives, because we can do whatever we want inside Gaza, outside Gaza. We can build the most beautiful area after we will finish that war. But the future of that region is those kids that are now traumatized. And doesn't matter what we will do, they will be traumatized because of what they suffered. But if we will not help them to find some kind of a path to come back to life and come back to that region, or maybe not, we are losing an entire generation of that area. And today, because the situation and because Israel Ministry of Education is not existing, we are on that path. And without organization like JNF and Green Horizons, we will lose that battle. And I went and served 60 days inside Gaza. And yeah, it was hard. And I lost friends, I lost soldiers. But that war is easy compared to what we are facing after we will finish that war. Because to bring back the trust of those people that suffered what they suffered in those places that Hamas entered, it's the hardest battle that those people in Israel will face. Because it will be very hard to bring the trust into the world, in the IDF, in the government. And I think here in the US, what you are suffering, which is not so talked about in Israel because we are dealing with their own war. Someone asked me today, do you see what's going on today in campuses? Not a lot. The news in Israel talks about it a little bit, what happens in Colombia. But we don't see because we are dealing with our own war. It maybe appears in the third page of the news because there are so many things before, which I think is wrong, but this is reality. But if we will not help those kids, your kids, understand that being Zionist and being connected to Israel, it's a must. We cannot live without, and we're seeing it now. So we took up that mission, and we need your help in that. And the last thing that I will say, it's the last thing where my father taught me. In that story about the campus, at the end, my father looked at me and says, Ido, do you know what happens when you're standing in the absolute north? What happens to the campus? Anyone who knows? It spins around itself because it knows that that's the absolute north. He said, when you will find it, you will know. I believe that I found my way of being the best Zionist I could be. Working in Green Horizens and impacting kids, and today even more, helping those sold to save them. I'm asking you to find your way. I think JNF is one of the best platforms to do it regarding Israel. But each one of you have to find it, because that's what we are. We are a big family of Jews, and our heart is Israel. So thank you for having me. And if you want questions, I would love to answer. But have a Shabbat Shalom, and hope to see you everyone in Israel. Thank you very much.
We have time for a couple questions if someone has them.
That's the microphone that's not working.
Oh, yes it is. Yeah, but would you mind standing at this mic and I will get the questions from the roaming.
I wasn't
The
in
roaming
the
mic.
Bima since I was in.
Questions? You're not going to let him get off this easy, are you?
How long are you here?
I came 2 days ago. Tomorrow morning I'm flying to Boston. After 2 days I'm flying to Phoenix.
Wow.
And then flying to Austin, Texas. And then on Sunday for Memorial Day in Yom HaAtzmaut I'm landing in Israel. And on Wednesday I'm back in the army, preparing for the next stage of whatever we will need, either Rafa, that's what we're talking about, or God knows what. So yeah, Wednesday. Actually, I told my wife that I'm going back to the army literally on the way back here, meeting Mark for dinner, because my commander, who is the guy that signed my ketubah, who is a very close friend of mine, called me literally because he didn't know I'm in the US. He called me at 2 a.m. last night. I didn't answer, and then he sent me a text, please call me back, and I called him back and told me, Ido, we have a mission. So as soon as I'm coming back, I'm back in the army.
Wow.
Wendy.
So in the United States, we hear a lot about what's going on with Netanyahu. How do people who live in Israel feel about him? What's like the majority of people, how do they feel about his decisions and what's going on?
So before I will answer that, I will tell you something that I learned on October 7, that every person that speaks with me, towards me, with exclamation points, I don't want to hear him. So what I'm saying now is just my opinion. I cannot speak for anyone else. I cannot speak for all of Israel. I think that every one of our leadership, the whole 120, should take responsibility and leave. The number one person that needs to leave, it's our Prime Minister. I think Bibi Netanyahu should have left many years ago, but that's my personal opinion. But he was voted democratically. But what happened on October 7, it's on his time. And if I did a mistake, I need to own it. And doesn't matter if I was doing it myself, but as someone that led soldiers for many years and now manage people, if there is a mistake of someone and it's so severe, even if I didn't actually did that mistake, I need to take ownership because it's my responsibility. But that's not my point of view. At the beginning of the war, I thought it's not time for election because election brings lots of conflict during an election time. And at the beginning, we needed to be united. But now, after half a year, without really big results, we have amazing results inside Gaza, I have to tell you, and I will maybe say something that in the news here you don't get. The accomplishment that IDF did inside Gaza, it's second to none. I know Gaza like the back of my hand because most of my service since 1997, I served in Gaza. When we were living inside, when we got out, when we came in operation, we come out of operations. Every operation since 1997, I was part of in the front lines. I can tell you about Bet Hanun and my brigade. We didn't see any civilians. What army in the world, or what country in the world that suffered what we suffered on October 7 took 3 weeks to get into Gaza? And the reason that we took 3 weeks is because we wanted the civilians from the north part of Gaza to leave. 3 weeks. It happened on October 7. The first day that we passed the border, and my brigade was the first brigade that passed the border with Gaza to Bet Hanun, was October 28th. 21 days that all we did is tell our enemies, Hamas, and the civilians that they are holding hostage also, not only our hostages, please leave that area because we are coming, because we need to come. No country in the world ever did it in any war. And I can tell you, in the 60 days that I was there, there was one day I saw civilians, and it was in the ceasefire time, in the middle when they started releasing hostages, when Hamas wanted us to make those mistakes and hurt civilians, so he told all the civilians that used to live in Bet Hanun to go back to their homes because we are not there anymore. And suddenly, when thousands of people were coming towards us, they saw us and stopped. And then we told them, from this line forward, you cannot move anymore. I can tell you that many of them came very close to us. We didn't shoot one bullet at any civilians. So I don't know what Hamas is saying or what the news are saying. We saw lots of terrorists. One civilian was not hurt from one bullet from 2,000 soldiers that I led. So back to your question, I think and I hope that all of our leadership in Israel will take responsibility on what happened. Some of them already did. Some of them in the military just left their position. One of them is a very close friend of mine, the Major General of the Central Command, Yuda Fuchs, because he's our organization alumni. One of the best officers the IDF had took responsibility, although it wasn't his area, but he was part of the leadership of the army and took responsibility and quit and left after almost 40 years of serving. I hope that other leaders, and I hope Benjamin Netanyahu will take responsibility because that's what he needs to do, and will leave. And it doesn't matter if I'm voting for him or not. I think that's, in my perspective, what he needs to do.
Thought I saw one other hand back here. Melissa?
Thank you. You mentioned that some of the kids are at the Dead Sea. I mean, are they, is there facilities? Do they have access to education? What are the living conditions like?
So actually, most of the communities that were living in the Dead Sea are kind of back to their community, except the community that was penetrated. They are not. They are living in other communities across Israel for the next year or two for now. But raise your hand if you ever spent one night in the Dead Sea, in the hotels there. Not a lot of people. But the Dead Sea area, which is called En Bokek, it's not actually the Dead Sea, it's a specific area. It's all hotels. There are no people living there. There are no homes and houses, schools, nothing. It's just hotels. And when things were happening, actually, JNF was the first organization, much earlier than government and other organizations, that start sending buses in order to rescue people from that area and moving them. So for your question, and from my experience, I remember myself going to Ukraine and seeing refugee camps of Ukrainians running in Poland. It had the same feeling. The first time that I drove into the Dead Sea area in Bokek on October 14th. The same feeling. It became from lots of hotels, 4-star, 5-star hotel, it became refugee camps in buildings. Everyone was refugees. Everyone was evacuees. Most of them were from the Gaza envelope area. The school system, one more. I went there and spent the entire day to understand how can we help and how our delegation would start working there. There was not one representative of the government. One. I'm not talking about politician. A representative of the Ministry of Welfare, a Ministry of Education, something, not one. I remember when I got in, my first stop was the David Hotel, which was the hotel that Kibbutz Be'eri was there. Chills just talking about it. Everyone was either crying or walking like dead people. And then I went there. The reason that I went there because one of our guide counselors, her mother is the head of the welfare of the municipality of Eshkol. So I spoke with her that I want to meet her in order to tell me what are the needs of the municipality. And I remember entering her room, and she was sitting with a computer. Next to her, her older sister, who is an alumni of us, with another computer. And both of them were sitting on an Excel. And every 2 to 5 minutes, she was getting a phone call from the police, telling her, this and this died, this and this injured. And what she was doing is managing an Excel of people that are died from her municipality, and her daughter, who is 21 years old, managing an Excel of people that were wounded from her community. And that's what she did for a week, because the government was not there. The school system started around 3 weeks after. But that's not what those kids needed. Imagine a kid that was held for 48 hours in a small bomb shelter, hiding beneath the bed or in the closet, waiting for someone to rescue him. They didn't come in most cases. Now telling him, you know what? It's very important for you to learn mathematics now, or learn English now. How do you think they would react? Around 2 months ago, we did a survey from all the kids that we are working with. We asked 2,000 kids between the ages of 8th grade to 12th grade. We asked them a few questions. The horrific result were that 78% of the kids are not going back to school. They will not finish high school. For sure, not the 11th grade and 12th grade. The worst thing, almost half of them, 49% of them, started using drugs and alcohol. Because when you are living in Eilat and you don't want to go back to your room to sleep with your parents, you go hang out. Eilat, it's one of the worst places a teenager can hang out at night. The highest number of prostitution, lots of drugs, very easy to get alcohol. So a young girl who is 16 years old, 17 years old, doesn't want to go back to her room because her parents are there, probably crying from what happens to their neighbors, to their brothers, to their sisters, to their parents. She goes out. And then someone comes to her and says, do you want a drink? said, okay, why not? It will, how do you say, להקות, איך אומרים להקות? כהה. The pain, like
Ease the pain.
to ease the pain. And then you take a drink. And then after a while, it doesn't help anymore. So someone offers you a drug. So you take that. And then you need to pay for it, but you don't have money. So someone offers you to do something. And so on and so forth. 20% of the kids that we asked just in the Dead Sea said that they were part of a violent event. It's numbers that it's unimaginable. And that's what we need to save. Because if not, what are we doing? What are we fighting for in Gaza? And that's what we're trying to do. So for your question, I think the solution is not school. It's not the education system. It's at the beginning putting a role model in front of those kids to help them to find their path back. Because they will be traumatized. They have trauma. We cannot solve it. The question, how we can lower the number of PTSD symptoms in the future.
Ido, thank you so much for being here with us. And we'll have time at the Oneg if you want to catch up and ask some additional questions. And I'm going to go right into announcements now. Okay. I wrote them down so I don't have to go look for them. So first off, I already thanked Ido. Okay. While we're talking about JNF, I'd also like to invite you to join us on Thursday, June 6th at 7:30 a.m. for the JNF-USA Breakfast for Israel. This is our annual signature event, community event, and this year it's more important than ever. There we will hear from the Vice President of Jewish Broadcasting Services, Shahar Azani. He'll join us at this time to share his thoughts on what the current state of Israeli affairs means for Jewish people. Okay, upcoming events. I'm going to try to do this in one breath. Tomorrow night, annual Holocaust Memorial Program here at 6 p.m. And if you have not gotten delivered your Holocaust candle, you can pick it up in the social hall tonight. Tea and Torah with Rabbi Meeka, Sunday morning at 10 in the library. Saturday, May 11th, book review, The Red Tent, 10 o'clock on Zoom. Saturday, May 18th, the B'nai Mitzvah of Annie, William, and Ryan Joslin. Yeah, right, Naomi. The following Saturday, Bar Mitzvah of Jack Gwynn. That's the 25th. The Sisterhood Year event is Saturday, June 2nd. That's going to include lunch, a tour of Tudor Hall, the Brides of Bluebeard, and more information about John Wilkes Booth than you'll ever want to know. That's where he lived, in Harford County. June 8th, the congregational meeting, board installation, dinner, awards. Great night. That's going to be here. And I have an announcement to make. A very happy announcement. That this year, we are once again going to have not one, but two Adolf Nord Award recipients, and they are both here tonight, Wendy Drabinski and Melissa Immel. So, yeah, mazel tov to you both. Be there June 8th. We're going to celebrate that as well. Thank you.
Thank you. I know it's late. So glad you brought your sleeping bags. Let us conclude our service for this evening. Our thoughts now turn to those who have departed this earth, our own loved ones, those whom our friends and neighbors have lost, the martyrs of our people whose graves are unmarked, and those of every race and nation whose lives have been a blessing to humanity. As we remember them, we meditate on the meaning of love and loss, of life and death. For the recently departed, we think of Evelyn Bell and Anita Rosenblum. For the Yorzites observed this past week, we think of Abraham Davis, Ido Reichman, Ida Kravitz, Jerome Rosenblum, Sid Bernstein, Werner Friedberg. Now I will invite everyone to rise, to stretch up. Let us end with Kaddish Yatom, our mourner's Kaddish, on page 598. יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה, ועל מה דברה חירותי וימליך מלכותי, בחייכון וביומכון ובחיי דכל בית ישראל, בעגלה ובזמן קריב, אמרו אמן. יהי שמי רבה מבורך לעולם ולעולמי עלמיה, יתברך וישתבח, ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא, ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל, שמי דקודשה בריחו. לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה, תושבחתה ונחמתה, דאמירן בעלמה ואמרו אמן. יהי שלמה רבה מן שמיה וחיים, עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום. עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן. May the one who creates harmony on high bring peace to us and Israel and our entire world, as we all say together, amen. And as we find our way to our social hall, I'll ask the doors over there to be opened and let us all join together.